Let's talk about colour pencils. If you buy cheap, will you buy twice? Today I want to take an in-depth look at a quite well-known brand of colour pencils. I'm going to take a look at Arteza. I want to put them through their paces and see if they're worth buying. Quick note, I was sent these pencils by Arteza, but it's not going to change the review I'm going to give. Now, I'm quite picky about the brands I choose to review, but I'm interested in Arteza because there seems to be a little bit of an anomaly. The reviews on Amazon are very good, and on their website they've got 5 stars, but the YouTube reviews are a lot less positive. So I'll be interested to find out why that is. I have heard a rumor that they've changed their formulation, so maybe that's something to do with it. So let's see if Arteza are any good today. Now, to give you a quick idea on the price of these pencils, in the UK, a tin like this will cost just under £35, which is interesting because my cheapest brand of professional pencils, the Prismacolor pencils, for a set of 60, that's just under £65, so they're almost half the price of Prismacolor. I've been sent the set of 72 pencils, and first impression wise, I think they look good. They come in a very nice tin, and the pencils themselves feel weighty and good quality. I'm interested to see that each of the pencils has its colour name, colour number, and it also has a series of crosses on it. So these crosses show the light fast rating for each pencil. A light fast rating shows you how fast you would expect the pencil to fade under normal conditions. So if you hung a picture on the wall, how long it would take for those colours to fade. So a pencil that has 5 of these little pluses is not very light fast at all. Whereas if they've only got 1, then it means that they're very light fast. I don't know off the top of my head the actual numbers, but I think generally it's about 100 years for something that's very light fast. And I've seen pencils that are about 2 years for something that's not very light fast. So I find it interesting that a brand of this price would have any light fast ratings at all, to be honest. Generally, that's not something you would see. Now, it's all very well looking at them, but I want to see how they work. So the first thing I want to do is swatch out all of the colours so that I can get a feeling for all of the pencils, but also have down on the paper what they all actually look like. However, before I do that, there is something that has annoyed me about this brand of pencils. The tin is split into 3 layers, and it's not in rainbow order. It's in just a series of random colour order, it seems. Which I guess is probably fine for some people, but whenever I do swatches, I like them to be in rainbow order. I like to have all of my yellows together, all of my reds together, and all of my blues together. So I need to tip out all of the pencils and put them back in the right order. I think I'm particularly annoyed about it because it has the colours in order on the lid. They're just in the box in a random order. This isn't the only brand that does this though. Prismacolor, I'm pretty sure I had to sort all of those when I first got them as well. I know that some people wouldn't be annoyed by this, but I am. So now they're all in the right order, let's swatch. Now what I'm doing here is drawing out a grid. I can then take each pencil and go from as light as I can make that pencil go to as dark as I can make that pencil go, and then label which colour it is. And I want to do this for all of the colours in the set. Now I don't like when I'm drawing relying on the outer shell of the pencil to tell me what that colour looks like. I generally find with all pencil brands this isn't very accurate. So by putting it down on the paper, I can see what it actually looks like. Now you may think that this is an extremely time-consuming job. I wouldn't say it's super fast, but this took me about an hour, and I literally can't draw without them, at least not well. Now beyond being able to see what all of the colours look like, this also gives me a chance to test out all of the colours. So kind of see how the pencil feels and get a bit of a first impression here, and also see if they all feel like they're the same quality. Now I say this because on the most part the pencils felt nice and creamy. They feel relatively similar actually to the Prismacolor pencils. That said, when I got to the blues, some of them suddenly felt very grainy. Not a lot of the pencils, but the odd few just weren't very nice to draw with at all. Now I have found this in the past with other pencil brands, just the odd pencil that doesn't match the rest. I don't see it as a massive issue really. What I did was just put a little dot next to the number so that I know that that's one of those pencils that I'm not gonna like drawing with, and I'll just avoid using those ones. In this set, it was mostly blues actually. I think that there was 5 blues and 1 random green one. But I do still feel like I'm left with enough blues that I'll be able to draw what I need to. Great, so I finished my beautiful swatches. I do feel like I have a little bit of an idea for the pencils now. Generally speaking, I would describe them as creamy, pretty easy to control. I didn't find it particularly challenging going from very light to very dark. It was really just those couple of pencils that were a bit grainy. Now I do want to go on to draw a full picture with these pencils. I think that's the only true way to know how they perform. But before I do that, I want to run a few other tests. I do like to know what I'm dealing with. Before I started drawing, I needed to sharpen them, and I was pleased to see that they do fit in my normal swordfish pencil sharpener. They also sharpen very easily to a very nice point, which is actually something that's relatively hard to come by with cheaper brands. Harder than you would think. I then cracked on with the first test. So the first thing I wanted to do was try and make a gradient from yellow through to orange and then red. This is a really good test to see how well the pencils blend together and how smoothly the pencils go down on the paper. So starting off with the yellow, it was all going very well. It felt nice and smooth, nice and creamy. I felt it very easy to control the amount going onto the paper. And I generally felt like it was looking nice and vibrant. I would say the same of the orange pencil. So it was nice and easy to overlap the orange into the yellow. Also, now I was starting to draw a little bit more with these. They're very nice pencils to hold. They feel very comfortable to hold and they do feel nice and substantial. Now I do feel like things were a bit less positive when I got towards the red pencil. I picked these 3 colours from the swatches on the most part because they looked very vibrant, but for some reason the red pencil didn't look as vibrant to me in this gradient as it looked on the swatch. It just kind of looked a little bit dull. I felt like when I tried to burnish the pencil, it got a bit worse. It ended up looking very scratchy. That said though, I actually think it looks better in real life than it does on camera, and you'll see a little bit later when I hold it up to the camera. Now I did find as I went back through the orange and the yellow, it was very easy to blend these colours together. Although there's something about them that just looks a little bit, I don't know, kind of patchy. And I feel like that happened when I burnished, so when I pressed firmer with the pencil. Now I was well aware that it could have been the way I was using them, maybe I went in too hard. So on the square beneath, I wanted to take the orange pencil and see how smooth I could get it. So I wanted to get a reasonable amount of colour down, but just in as uniform way as possible. And actually where I didn't at the end burnish, where I didn't go in harder with the pencil, I did find that it looks far better. So maybe these just work better with sort of lighter layers, not burnishing at the end. Now something else I noticed is that the pencils did need to be sharpened relatively frequently, which again is fine, it's just something to bear in mind. I wanted to, in the next square, see how well with a sharpened pencil I could make little details. So see if I would be able to do something like fur texture, for example. It did perform well at this, and I would say that I'm pretty happy I would be able to make some fine details with this pencil. Now, one of the last tests I wanted to do was see how these pencils would respond to solvent. So I started off by taking the red pencil and putting down a reasonable amount, enough that I'd be able to blend. I have heard that these pencils don't blend very well, so I'll be interested to see if I also find that. Now I've used Zest It on a Q-tip to blend this, and actually I think it's blended very nicely. Much better than I was expecting. It looks like a very nice solid block of colour after blending, which is exactly what I would want. So the last test I want to do is just see how well the pencil scrapes away with a craft knife. This is something that I frequently do when drawing fur. And again, I think this has worked as well as I would expect it to on something like Prismacolor. Okay, so my first impressions of these pencils is that they kind of seem similar to Prismacolor. They're quite waxy, so they blend together pretty well. They look a little bit streaky when burnished, but I think that's mostly the lighting in here. I really don't think they look as bad in person. I would definitely describe them more like Prismacolor than like something like Polychromos. They definitely have that waxy feel. Now I do want to draw something with them, but what should I draw? So after spending a fair while looking at pictures trying to decide what to draw, I thought what makes the most sense is to draw something I've previously drawn with Prismacolor. So because I'm finding a lot of similarities between Arteza and Prismacolor, it seems like the easiest way to see how they perform and if they perform in the same way. This pair seemed like a good test. You wouldn't necessarily think so, but there are a lot of colours made up in here. And it's a really good opportunity to see how the colours layer over each other. Generally speaking, I think these pencils did kind of act in a similar way to Prismacolor. I did, however, have a much harder time trying to make them as smooth as I wanted them to be. It turned out that I was drawing at a similar speed to how fast I drew the pair with the Prismacolor, but this just ended up looking much more scratchy and blotchy. I do think I would have been able to get it as smooth as the Prismacolor, but I would have had to take a lot more time over it. I was trying to do them at roughly the same pace. As far as choosing the colours to pick the pair, on the most part I felt like I had everything I needed. There was really just two colours that I usually have that I didn't in this case. So I usually have a much darker green. There's not really any very dark greens in the set. And I was also missing a sienna brown, kind of reddish brown colour. But it wasn't a huge issue. I did manage to make some substitutions, so at the end of it, it did look like a pair. All in all, I think this pair came out very nicely. I mean, it does look scratchy if you hold it right next to the Prismacolor drawing, but who in their day-to-day art draws the same thing twice with two different sets of pencils? I mean, apparently I do, but I don't recommend it. So I think if you buy cheap, you don't necessarily buy twice. I do think you get what you pay for though. That said, if you are after a large set of pencils without spending a massive amount of money, I do think that Arteza are a good set. You could spend double or triple the price and end up with, in my opinion, a better set of pencils, but it will cost you double or triple the price. Alright, I hope you found this video helpful. Happy drawing guys, and I'll see you in the next one.